Alright, so DeVonta Smith just came out and made the bold claim that he thinks he can take his game to the next level, and there's really good reason to believe that he's going to do that in the 2024 season, but why exactly is that? Meanwhile, the Eagles are having fun at the Pro Bowl games, and Darius Slay specifically made headlines as he outlined his final lofty goal for his career, but he's going to have to accomplish it with a new positional coach, as one Eagles defensive coach is apparently leaving, and on top of that, the Eagles just added 2 new coaches to the staff, and one is a former Eagles coach who's returning, and also reuniting with defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. And speaking of Fangio, one of his former players just came to his defense amidst reports that he wasn't very well liked in Miami. So let's talk about that and everything else from a fun past couple of days. And we won't waste any time, let's get straight into it. So I think it's clear that Jalen Hurts did take a slight step back this year from his MVP form in 2022, but the question is, should we really be worried about that? I personally am not, but Philly and Eagles legend Ray Didinger seems to disagree with that, as he went on WIP and said this.
Am I concerned about him? I'd be lying if I said no. I mean, the easy thing and what everybody wants you to say is, oh, no, come on, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. Don't worry. I'm not so sure. I would go back and look at it. I mean, he did. I mean, in terms of his mechanics, as much improvement as he made last year, he took that many steps back this year. To the end, I mean, holding the ball way too much, throwing the ball in the spots that he's got to know better. I mean, to me, if you want to put where he is right now in a nutshell, I mean, it's the sack in the end zone in Tampa. I mean, that's we were sort of building up to that moment, and then it happened that night. That's how far he's fallen right now. Last year, he doesn't make that play.
Now, no disrespect to Ray, but I just can't quite understand that take. I'm not going to deny that Jalen didn't quite look like the 2022 version of himself, but to say that he's regressed that far, I feel like is unwarranted, because the fact of the matter is, Jalen was being asked to do everything for this team. The coaching staff never put him in positions to succeed this year. I mean, we all know about the high school level offense the Eagles were running that didn't utilize the middle of the field, had no creativity whatsoever, at times completely got away from the run game, and also never put Hurts under center. Plus, they gave him zero answers against the blitz because all the routes were downfield. I mean, Hurts was up against it this year, and I think some of these inexplicable plays like the sack in the end zone in Tampa were a result of him pressing rather than him actually regressing. Plus, Hurts still scored an Eagles record 38 total touchdowns, had the highest completion percentage over expected in the league this year, and also had the 6th lowest turnover-worthy play rate, despite having 20 turnovers, suggesting that they were pretty fluky. I mean, I personally would say that the Eagles won some games last year on the back of Jalen Hurts, so I don't know. I just think you gotta get Jalen a real OC, and they should have that now in Kellen Moore, so I'm not worried. Plus, despite him being the first alternate, Jalen's at the Pro Bowl right now along with many other Eagles, and even though I know, yes, nobody cares about the Pro Bowl, I must admit, it's been pretty fun to see some of the Eagles participate in some of these games. I mean, Jalen threw in the precision passing game, which was fun to see, and by the way, if I see anybody in the comments who's worried over his performance in this little game, I don't know what to say to you, especially since Jason Kelce didn't do too hot in his game either.
Who makes it in the 5.
That's now,
what's 0 times 0?
Yeah, I told him about the 0.
Got it.
He got the 5? He had the 5?
Yeah.
Oh, damn it.
Baker, I told him. A little bit difficult.
Good job, guys.
This dude is a gem, and he gave us a couple more fun clips with Jalen throwing this ball down the sideline to him while Jason's barefoot, by the way, and also he had this wholesome moment with his daughters on the field, which was cool to see. Meanwhile, Darius Slay participated in the golfing competition, and let's just say he's no Tiger Woods.
Guaranteed a hole in one.
Come on, Slay.
Yeah. Hey, no, don't for it. Stay still. Dang. It's too much wind out here.
I mean, I'll be honest, I see that clip and I think he looks an awful lot like me. Me and Slay might both need some practice, honestly, although I'm sure he would destroy me in an 18-hole game. But now, getting back to more football-related things, Slay, while at the Pro Bowl, was interviewed by John Clark, and he revealed what his final goal is for his career, and safe to say, it's one that all Eagles fans hope he accomplishes.
I'm looking forward to that, man. Like I said, I ain't got too many years. I'm going to year 12, and I got a lot of great things on my resume besides a ring, so I'm for sure trying to get everything I got to get a ring.
Glad to hear that Slay's hungry for a championship, and trust me, the Eagles fan base is very hungry too, but to get back to the mountaintop and win it this time, we know that Slay and the Birds secondary are just going to have to be a lot better than they were this last year. I mean, let's face it, they were terrible, so changes definitely need to be made in that area, and I'm sure the change in defensive coordinator is going to help, but also switching up the positional coaching staff in that area may change things as well, and that's exactly what the Eagles have done recently. Now, we all had expected that Seahawks senior defensive assistant Carl Scott would be coming to Philly, but a few days ago, he instead decided to take a promotion with the Seahawks and stay there. So that kind of sucks because I was excited about Scott, and also in addition to losing him, it seems the Eagles are losing their defensive backs coach from this past year as well in DK McDonald, as he's reportedly going to Kansas to be their defensive coordinator, and this is something that I just think probably needed to happen. I'm not going to sit here and say I know everything about DK, but I do know that he barely has any NFL experience. He's one of Nick Sirianni's close buddies, so that might be part of the reason that he got in this position, and the secondary just sucked under him this last year. There's no question about it, so I think it's just good that they're going to have to make a change there. And speaking of changes to the coaching staff, the Eagles officially made one at QB coach, as they have hired Doug Nussmeier for that role, and I think that this is a decent hire because Doug has a lot of experience as a quarterbacks coach. He's done it in college with teams like Alabama, Florida, Michigan, and Washington, along with the Cowboys and Chargers in the NFL, and his time in both Dallas and LA were spent under new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, so there's some familiarity there. And overall, I mean, I'm not going to lie and say I know much about him, but it sounds like it's a good hire just based off the experience that he has, and also he has the familiarity with the offensive coordinator, so that definitely helps. And someone who has familiarity with the defensive coordinator is the Eagles' new safety coach in Joe Kasper, as Kasper was the safety coach in Miami this past year along with Vic Fangio, and Fangio seems to covet him highly, hence him making it a point to bring Kasper back to Philly with him. And I say back because Kasper was actually here before as a quality control coach during the 2021 and 22 seasons, so that means he was on the Super Bowl staff. So it's interesting to have him back, and hopefully he can get the most out of guys like Reed Blankenship and Sidney Brown when he ends up returning from injury, and also hopefully he proves Fangio right in his decision to bring him along to Philly. Oh, and speaking of Fangio, I mean, there's been a lot of buzz surrounding him ever since he was hired by the Eagles, and one particular report said that Fangio may not have been too well liked in his time with Miami by the players, and this is something that I talked about in a previous video, but basically what I said was the players that didn't like him probably just didn't want to be coached very hard, and they were trying to get away with stuff that Fangio wasn't having, and it seems like I was right, as this report came out actually from WIP saying that several of the Miami players valued the lifestyle down there over football, which led to a disconnect between them and Fangio.
Well, I knew it! We are blowing the roof off! Blowing the roof off!
Now, if that report wasn't enough of a defense of Fangio, why don't we listen to what All-Pro safety Justin Simmons has to say about him and his arrival in Philly, as of course the two were together with the Broncos while Fangio was the head coach, and Simmons said, quote, "I owe a lot of my success to Vic and his staff because just the way they implemented their defense and made me learn the game in a whole new perspective. It was a whole new defense, it was a whole new way of learning, so Philadelphia's got a great one." So that certainly sounds like a strong endorsement to me. And despite me still being a little bit skeptical of Fangio, I'm excited to see what he can do with the defense. And I'm also even more excited to see what Kellen Moore can do with the offense, because as I said in my video breaking the hire down, I think he can take Jalen Hurts in this group to the next level. The talent's there, they just have to put him in the right positions, and I think Moore will do that for them. And one guy who I'm particularly excited to see in Moore's system is DeVonta Smith, who, as we know, is just an incredible talent. The guy is one of the best route runners I've ever seen. He's got some amazing hands, and he's got some of the best body control I've ever seen too. And it's crazy how Smitty, being as little as he is also just able to go up over the top of defenders and win jump balls or come down with contested catches. I mean, skinny Batman is truly amazing to watch, but again, like I said about Jalen Hurts earlier, he wasn't being put in the best positions to succeed this year by the coaching staff, as he was just being forced to run a very simple and limited route tree that in turn limited his production, even though the guy still had over 1,000 yards in the season. But still, again, I think there's a whole new level that Smitty can take it to, and apparently so does he, as when he was asked if he does have a new level to reach, he said, quote, "I would say yeah, you've seen it at times, but I mean, that just comes down to getting the ball in space. That's all it is." And that comment about getting the ball in space is very interesting to me, because that's something that he didn't really get the opportunity to do a lot of this past year, again, just because of the simplicity, the routes that he was running, and the coaching staff's lack of utilization over the middle of the field. I mean, the guy was constantly running these curl and stick routes rather than getting into space with a slant or drag route, for example. I mean, that's something you're going to see Smitty doing a lot more under Kellen Moore. You're going to see him go in motion a lot more, which should create more opportunities. You're going to see him running some of these crazy routes and crazy route trees that receivers under Kellen Moore have run in the past, and I think that'll really unlock his game a lot. I mean, I would expect a career year for DeVonta Smith next season under Kellen Moore, as long as he stays healthy, so you can save this video and come back to it after the season, because I'm that confident that Kellen Moore is exactly what DeVonta Smith needs. But now there's just one question. When will the Eagles give Smitty that extension that he deserves so much? Well, that's surely going to be a big topic to cover later in the offseason, so if you don't want to miss any coverage on that or just anything else Eagles related coming throughout this entire offseason, make sure you go down right now, subscribe, and also really importantly, turn on notifications. Also, drop a like down below on this video if you did enjoy it and want to show some support, and leave a comment down below just regarding anything that I talked about in this video. And if you want to watch another Eagles video going over Smitty and AJ's content-filled appearance on Up and Adams, you can go check this out right here. Now, with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.